G'day team, Punt Road here. Wanted to say thanks to everyone for their support for the YouTube channel and these videos, both on this platform but across at Twitter, X. It's been amazing to get the enthusiastic reactions from people. They've provided me with feedback where they'd like to see it go, and that sort of encouragement is absolutely brilliant. And it really has engendered in me a desire to push out as many of these as I possibly can, and hopefully people like, subscribe, and join us on that journey. So to the Metal Twitter community, you guys are 100% doing the right thing, and you're the best in the business. Thank you so much. Keep it up. So today we're going to be talking about none other than what is behind me here. Yes, the most expensive Hollywood special effects, the most expensive Hollywood style set design, the Mary Jane poster. I've spared no expense on this channel. Also the jumper, that's right, the bullet bands. It's so far so good, so what? Guys, I'm wearing this hoodie. It is currently 33 degrees centigrade or 91.5 degrees Fahrenheit in Perth, Western Australia. The things that I do for you guys, fortunately, I've got the digital ability to remove the sweat coming off my face and the redness as I heat up in there. So just part of the special effects budget. We move on to the 1988 release, So Far, So Good, So What. Love that title. I actually saw this album at the CD shop when I was roughly about 10, probably a year to 2 years before I got into Megadeth. I didn't know what it was, but it looked bloody freaky, and I still think it looks kind of freaky now, as Vic, in a very sort of physical and different look on him, sits, I believe, or stands on the moon with the Earth in the background in some type of war zone or something. So quite a futuristic Mustaine vision there. We had some new members join Mustaine and Ellison in belching Jack Bella on the drums and Jeff Young on lead guitar. This lineup would only last for this one album, and part of that was to do with the hedonistic lifestyle that they were living at that time. There was a lot of narcotics. I just trying to avoid getting thrown off YouTube. And if you watch the VH1 special where Mustaine lifts off, you know, black caps, China whites, speedballs, there's a litany of different drugs that he talks about, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Probably didn't help as well. Jeff Young was involved in supposedly and allegedly but dodgy way with Mustaine's girlfriend. I'm surprised he didn't wake up dead, boom tish. If it was Diana, he's a braver man than I am. So this was also quite a short album, and I know that Lars Ulrich made a sort of a snide remark that it was EP length. I'm going to attribute it to him, even if it wasn't him. And sorry, Lars. And you can tell in the 8 songs that when you compare that to its stablemates and the album that bookends it in Peace Sells But Who's Buying and Rust in Peace, it's slightly shorter, well, than Rust in Peace, but a bit shorter than, even a little bit shorter than Peace Sells But Who's Buying. But for me, the quality of the production, the quality of the songs, I think there's, you know, certainly the cover and Anarchy, which we'll come to, and a few other points, just for me, see it dip lower. There's a lot of people that I speak to out there on X who would disagree and say it's their favorite, and more power to them. For me, it's slightly less, but you know, a slightly less Megadeth album is still brilliant compared to so many others that are out there by the bands. So quickly, just want to go through some of the tracks, give you a couple of Easter eggs and a little bit of tidbit information and some of my thoughts. So Into the Lungs of Hell, brilliant instrumental. Mustaine, the remasters, leave the Casio horns out of it. My daughter on her keyboard, she's 8. I think she could produce better ones than that. It wasn't necessary. You don't need to muck around with perfection. And as you said about your not having tattoos, you don't need to put a bumper sticker on a Mercedes-Benz. You don't need to put Casio horns on Into the Lungs of Hell. Second track we have is Set the World Afire. Set the World Afire is a blazing, riff-tastic, classic Megadeth tune. It starts off with the Ink Spots, a 1920s or 30s popular band at the time. They get blown up by a thermonuclear device. That's Mustaine once again showing his acerbic and cynical wit. I played that to my grandfather in the late 80s and his eyes almost popped out of his head. Originally, Set the World Afire was called Megadeth. Lawrence Core, who was a very, very short time frame in the band as the original singer for Megadeth, I don't know if you know that, he suggested that they changed the name Megadeth from the song to the band, so they needed a new name, and it became Set the World Afire. The next one we have is Anarchy in the UK. Probably the less we say about Anarchy, the song, the better. They really made a mistake in there. They didn't get the official lyrics from the publisher and instead just tried to take it off the copy that they had themselves. And there was a litany of mistakes in there, including other punt-like tendencies. Don't want to once again get thrown off this platform. And a variety of other ones that just really bogged it down. And ultimately, it just wasn't a fantastic cover. I think Mustaine originally wanted to do Problems, another Sex Pistols track, but unfortunately Anarchy was one that came through. Steve Jones, guitarist for Sex Pistols, did play on the track, and he had recently become sober, and he walked into a very unsober Megadeth, so I'm sure that would have been an interesting dynamic. He also walked in and asked for some suction, of which Mustaine said, not in your Nelly, and gave him some cash, and he went off down the road and found someone to participate in that for him. So the Sex Pistol himself, appropriate. Next song we had is Mary Jane. Mary Jane is a beloved song, certainly on Twitter. It's a favourite for a lot of people. It's got speed. It's got a lot of really interesting guitar work in there. Basically, though, Mustaine wrote it specifically so that I can have this banner and special effects. So thanks, Dave, for sorting that out for me. Really long game on that one. Appreciate it. The next one is 502. 502, a code for the US police, supposedly for drink driving. A little bit of an Easter egg there. Just before he crashes the car, when he turns the radio on, it's Alice Cooper's Under My Wheels, which is playing. So if you turn your stereo up really loudly, you might be able to hear that. In My Darkest Hour, not written for Cliff Burton, but written by Mustaine after he found that Cliff Burton had died, and he was obviously very emotional and felt alone. A fantastic song full of heartfelt lyrics, some really good guitar work in there as well. Yeah, quite an early sort of epic Megadeth track. And, you know, take the opportunity to say rest in peace to the major rager, Cliff Burton. What an absolute legend he was. Liar. Liar was my son's favourite song when he was about 6, which was interesting considering some of the lyrical content. Allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly a lot, so all the stuff I said before earlier about Jeff Young and else, allegedly, this song was about Chris Poland stealing gear from the band and then hocking it so that he could purchase drugs. Now, Mustaine did the right thing, brought him back in the fold, said, look, mate, I'm an addict. I get it. No, he didn't actually do that. He didn't forgive him. He wrote the song Liar. And it's a ripping short form Megadeth song. Years later in Dystopia, they come up with Emperor, which I think sort of fits the same mold. And I'm actually, same mold, I'm a big fan of those, a bit like with Black Sabbath when they did their shorter ones like Neon Nights. Although this has that more of a punk feel to it, which, as we said earlier with the Anarchy, Mustaine was a huge punk fan and he loved the attitude there. If he did like sort of, I suppose, the technical complexities of other forms of music, but he somehow managed to fuse the two. It's a nice little track. The last number on here, Hook in Mouth. Wow, I mean, Hook in Mouth is just one of the great examples of Mustaine's ability to turn lead guitar into rhythm. It's obviously around censorship, the PMRC, Tipper Gore, and the Filthy 15. It was amazing how someone tried so desperately to have censorship and stop people saying terrible things. Think of the children. And instead, it became an absolute wellspring for songs like this that just went straight to the jugular. My favourite song off the Filthy 15 is Eat Me Alive by Judas Priest, which when you know the history of Rob Halford and Judas Priest makes it even more awesome. More power to Rob, he's also a legend. Yeah, and Hook in Mouth is just one of the best, and if you ever get to see that live, I have, it's something else. I think Essen, Germany, 1988 on YouTube. If you go and see the live performance of Megadeth, the Hook in Mouth, I've posted it before in my Twitter feed, is just absolutely brilliant. So that's what we have for So Far So Good So What. Look, like I said earlier, for me, it's a great album. It's a really, really, really good album. Is it as good as Rust in Peace and Peace Sells But Who's Buying? Probably for me, not. Does it have arguably one of the best album closers for Megadeth? I would say 100% yes, and it competes with Ashes in Your Mouth for that regard. And I would also say songs like Set the World Afire really take it up to the next level. In My Darkest Hour was the first time that Megadeth sort of really went to that, obviously not a ballad, but more of an emotive song, as far as, the start being a bit more acoustic, but also the lyrical themes that were in there as well. So it was a progression. I wouldn't say it was up to the peak of an Everest forward, but what it did was, without So Far So Good So What, we would not have laid the groundwork for Rust in Peace. We would have not have laid the groundwork, I think, when they hit that nadir in their own personal lives, to then be able to focus, get fit, get well, and produce what was Rust in Peace. But on its own, I would still certainly give it probably somewhere of about 9.5 shoes out of 13 clogs. So thanks a lot for listening in again. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for support. Please like and subscribe. Go and pop on your copy of So Far So Good So What. And hopefully I'll see you here for the next Megadeth album chat. Maybe it won't be Megadeth. Maybe it'll be Roland's Band or Soundgarden or the Dead Kennedys. Who knows? Thanks a lot, guys. And as always, have a ripper.